I can't stop writing. Whether I write well or not, I will let others decide. All I know is that I am a writer because I have the two things that make someone worthy of the title writer. One, deadlines, and two, a paycheck. And I offer what little advice I can to aspiring writers in 10 maxims. 1. Good writing is truth through personality. In normal circumstances, you will never hear me say anything close to be yourself. Our culture says that often enough. The few people who need to hear it can hear it from others. But as a writer, you need to find your voice. An old friend in college told me, "When I read what you write, I can hear you saying those words." I was all of 17. I didn't realize it at the time, but that praise would become an ideal for me, a goal to shoot for. I think it also shaped the way I talk, made it a bit more formal, like writing. I had a brilliant, witty friend in grad school, an English teacher, and he made a similar comment. "People like to read what you write, Mark," he said. And this meant so much to me because they get in contact with a person, with you. We were close enough friends that I could tell him that this was just the thing missing from his own writing, himself. And the terrible irony was that he was so scintillating a person. What gave? I don't fully know. Maybe he got the cockeyed idea students get that the scaffolding we put around beginners in school is writing, or maybe he feared rejection of his ideas. Sharing your inner life through writing can leave you vulnerable, which leads me to my second point, which should properly be my first and last. 2, good writing is a work of love. It's being compelled by love for God and others to speak truth, write truth, in as compelling a way as possible. In fact, I don't know any way to push past the kind of inhibitions my friend had and risk rejection except by loving others more than one's own safety. Theologically speaking, all of our loves are twisted by sin. But Christians should ideally be able to write lovingly because regeneration reorders our loves toward the God of truth and beauty who made our neighbors in his image. Good writing works in love to bring nutritious and savory dishes to other people's tables. And I must stress this. To do this, you have to have some ingredients in the kitchen. You need to know something that your readers don't know. You need to do homework, work that other people haven't done. Thinking, reading, talking, praying that other people haven't done. That's hard. It takes time. 3, good writing masters the mechanics in order to get them out of the mind and into your second nature. I'm talking about spelling, I'm talking about comma splices, about the lie-lay distinction, about arranging your linguistic forks properly upon the dinner table and using them in the right order. Maybe it isn't fair that good writing demands this kind of attention to niceties that usually come only through years of education. And I hasten to add that I know a capable dyslexic woman whose writing is very compelling despite her sometimes humorous spelling struggles. She just has editors. Ideally, though, you mind your grammatical P's and Q's while you're young so you can eventually forget about minding them. You can employ them without thinking. In every email I write, even the quick ones, I work to have correct sentence structure and spelling and all that good stuff. 4, good writing submits to good editors. I had a coworker hundreds of moons ago who wrote horribly. He was stilted and dated at the same time. I was aghast, and not just aghast. I mean, I was like multiple ghasts. I would lie on the floor after reading this person's prose, just gasping. I gently tried to nudge his prose in a better direction, but he would have none of it. Not a syllable could be altered. He operated by the writing principle handed down by the Medes and Persians to Pontius Pilate. What I have written, I have written. This taught me a thing or two. I realized if I wanted to write well, I should read a lot of edited prose and write a lot of it. I had been edited by competent people before already, and after that I leaned in further, eager to learn. I even let them chop at my precious humor, though I wasn't disappointed that when I saw repeatedly that editors who got to know me let more of it through over time. Editors can see dangers that you don't. The last time I meekly submitted to an editor, I had written with a Russian accent, and she gently said, "Are you sure you want to try this gag?" So I blew it up on the runway so the Russians would not get US humor technology. I've had some great editors, and they were at their best when they picked up on systemic problems in my writing and offered systemic solutions. some of which are reflected in the maxims that I'm giving you today. What a privilege I came to see, to have someone with his own editorial deadlines and paychecks, and now I have those, telling you when you're doing stuff wrong. Don't turn that down. Seek it. 5. Good writing is not too conscious of itself. There is a fine line here, and I hope I stay on the right side of it. I pray that I do. Verbal acuity, yea, even wit, these are tools that need to be used in the service of God and neighbor. If I really just love words, and I do, and if I can paraphrase Eric Liddell, and I can, that when I write English words, I feel God's pleasure, and if I love the truth, and if I love my neighbor, then it's okay if I express my delight in language by playing around with it, stretching it. See Maxim 4. The key, I think, to avoiding winking pretentious prose is to keep my eyes on God and others and not let myself start thinking about the praise that comes from men. The other key is that the truth has to remain louder than the voice speaking it. 6th, good writing competes for eyeballs without cheating. Clickbait titles are bad, 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 or maybe just bad, bad, not bad, bad, bad. Because you do have to win readers, and how you do that online, which is where a lot of writing is nowadays, is with careful titling. Here's the principle, I think. You can ethically raise curiosity in a clickbaity way as long as you deliver on what the title promises. Clickbait is only frustrating when it's a lie, when you click on that headline that says, "You will never guess what Britney Spears ate for lunch that day," and the actual article has all ads and no Britney lunches. I write articles to delight and persuade, and I want readers. I want them because I love the truths that I am relating and hopefully persuading them of. So I do not disdain using titles that elicit their eyeballs. 7, good writing pays its dues. Here's how you get deadlines and paychecks. You write and write and write and write, and you volunteer to write, and readers find you, and you volunteer to write more. You blog until you get other opportunities. Individual blogging, it seems to me, is dead. The people who had it in their blood and couldn't stop and got readers and made a difference found paid work. The few bloggers I still read, like Alan Jacobs, are just wunderkinds who have so much good writing in them that they can just give some of it away for free. But money does come to real writers eventually. People, despite all the TV shows out there, they haven't stopped reading, and I am confident they are not going to stop. As Substack has shown, they are willing to pay if the writing is good enough. I pay for writing myself. I saw friends starting blogs when I was in seminary, however, and I sensed that they hadn't all paid those dues. I knew I didn't have anything worth reading, not yet, not at that age, so I waited till I was married and almost 30 to start a blog. And I try to stay in my lanes. I still do. I'm even in narrower lanes than I used to be. And without any grand plan and with very few connections, I just started typing and typing like a madman. I guess I'm doing it right now, sort of, because I wrote this script. When the fit comes upon me, as I said before, I feel God's pleasure. I think that's what gifting usually means. And I said yes to nearly all invitations to write. And I knocked on doors, and I worked at my craft, and I suffered rejection, but prayed, repented, and learned as needed, and kept going. I can't stop. I won't stop writing. And opportunities just started to come to me. I can't do what many writers I admire do, people who seem capable of writing endlessly about anything. Instead, I've paid some tolls in the lanes that I can actually drive down, and I keep driving. 8, good writing learns the labels for literary devices. Good writing does this, of course, for the sake of learning to use these literary devices. This is a lifelong effort. And again, the goal is to make this knowledge second nature. Too much attention to zoigma and litetes and hyperbole and all the others can quickly become an ostentatious slog. These devices have labels because they existed first. Writers intuitively use them and use them enough that they eventually needed names. But we moderns enjoy the advantage of those names having already been invented for us. We don't have to go out and discover those devices anew. For all this, I highly recommend Mark Forsyth's Etymologicon. It's an absolutely brilliant delight. I myself never self-consciously think I must include a literary device here. I go by a feel that's been developed over many years. But as with exegetical tools in Bible study, knowing the labels for devices helps me see them once I've used them, mainly so I don't overuse them. 9. Good writing uses big words to delight, not to impress. This picks up on themes I've already mentioned. It might not deserve its own point, but I must mention David Foster Wallace and Ferguson Darling from Clarissa Explains It All, my favorite Nickelodeon show as an adolescent. Wallace he committed suicide, a brilliant essayist. You just got to read How Tracy Austin Broke My Heart, or even better, E Unibus Pluram, Television and U.S. Fiction. One thing that delights me in Wallace's writing is his occasional use of difficult and obscure words. I checked my Kindle highlights from Wallace's essays, and I immediately saw carbuncular, a word I don't know, and sedulous, a word I do know. Both, however, are uncommon, I think it's safe to say. But somehow these words delight me rather than make me feel small. And they actually don't strike me as showing off, but as the exertion of a glorious God-given power. On the other hand, Ferguson, Clarissa's annoying, red-headed, know-it-all brother, once learned a bunch of obscure words from the dictionary for the sole purpose of making himself appear superior to others and, crucially, making them feel inferior to him. I don't catch that attitude from Wallace. But when I was a kid at camp one summer, another kid truly thought that I was Ferguson Darling. I really did look like him, with the red hair and all that. And I'm afraid the resemblance was more than hair and skin deep. I acted like Ferguson, too. This is a temptation for me to this day, to be a know-it-all. We should exult in the riches of our language, but we should be Wallaces about it, not Fergusons. As one of my editors used to say, kill your darlings. 10. Good writing leads the reader to green pastures beside still waters. Good writing pays a lot of attention to sentence flow. You often pick up one idea from the end of one sentence and use it in the next, and often at the beginning of the next. You make the reader's path smooth before them. Do you see what I did there? I've alluded to the one text that I can safely assume all my viewers will know. I do this all the time. I love writing for Bible-loving Christians because we all know the Bible, so Christian writing can be like a tree planted by rivers of divine words. Ironically, if I were solely concerned about my writing, I would argue for the retention of the King James Version as the standard translation of the Bible for the English-speaking church. Using the King James makes allusion so easy, and for two reasons. First is that for a long time, we all used it, so its wording was familiar to every English-speaking Christian. Second is its archaic English makes allusions that much easier to spot. You don't even have to be subtle. Writing is leading others down a smooth and beautiful path, and for most of us, that means working hard to clear that path of roots and sticks. Good writing flows pleasingly from sentence to sentence. Those are my 10 maxims. Love God and neighbor, and write truth till the stars fall.